Hey, welcome to this edition of our Summer Devos. Hope your summer's going great. Highlight for my summer is my family and I took a vacation to Washington, D.C. It was awesome. It was great. We'd never been there. Cheryl and I and the kids had never been there. We walked like crazy for 5 days all around D.C. trying to see all of the big sites and places. And it is something, all these memorials, the Jefferson Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, and just seeing all of the places and ways in which our country is recognizing and remembering these great men, these great people, and everywhere you turn, you saw somebody was recognized or honored in some way throughout history. It was really cool. We love history. We love kind of learning stories and learning about people and decisions they made and the impact it had on our country and our freedom. It was awesome. It was really cool. A great 5 days in D.C. kind of highlighted my summer. This week we've been reading in Exodus 13 through 15, and to give a little overview of what's been going on. We've completed the plagues. Israel now, Egypt now says leave, and they say okay, and they take off. And then in chapter 13, I think it is, God kind of tells them, in the midst of this story, in the midst of them packing up and leaving to go to the promised land, he tells them, don't forget this day. I want you to remember this every year. I want you to honor this day. And to do that, I want you to consecrate, which means for which means sacrifice for your animals, and dedicate your firstborn. And he says, I want you to do that. I want you to commemorate this day because I don't want you to forget what I've done for you here. I want you to tell the story to your children and your grandchildren. And on this day, I want you to celebrate it. And I want you to commemorate it. And then he jumps back into the story. And he says, okay, they're heading out, and you get this picture of the Egyptians. The Pharaoh says, you know what, that's a bad idea. And he chases after them, and here they are. They're encamped right by the Red Sea, and coming over the hill, they're coming upon them. And as they come upon them, the Israelites are freaking out. And God says, hey, I'm going to deliver you today. And I'm going to show my glory to Pharaoh. And it's kind of cool. And so the cloud and the fire that has led them so far, just a couple of days probably, all of a sudden moves behind them and stands between the Egyptians and Israel. And it provided darkness for the Egyptians and light for the Israelites, so they could pack up their things. And they headed over to the sea. And God says, he said, raise up your staff. You raise up his staff, and the waters part across the Red Sea. And this miracle happens, and they travel through. They get to the other side, and then the Egyptians come through. They come on down, and they're standing on the shore, the Israelites, and they're watching, and God just engulfs them and wipes out their entire army. Amazing story. And what is their response? They're like, woo! And they celebrate, I love this, through singing a song. They worship him in song. They just think about that next time you go to church or something like that and you're singing, and even if you're not into singing, you just think like that was their first reaction and their response to being overjoyed with what God had done and what they saw God do for them. Now, a couple things I want to point out here, and that is that they wanted God wanted them to remember this day. That's significant. The second thing is did you notice any parallels between the Israelite story in Egypt and our story? They were enslaved to Pharaoh. We were enslaved to sin. They had to sacrifice a lamb and put the blood over there, and the angel passed over them. And Jesus is called the Lamb of God. He died to save us and give us life. They passed through the waters of the Red Sea and were saved on the other side. We pass through the waters of baptism and we find salvation on the other side. This is a beautiful parallel of a great Old Testament story in our story. And God says to his people, I don't want you to forget what I did for you. And I think that you and I should remember the day in which we gave our lives to the Lord. The day in which we accepted his grace, his forgiveness. The light bulb went off and we said, we believe. The day in which we entered into the waters of baptism and came back new, refreshed. I think it's important that we remember that moment, that time, what God was speaking and saying and doing in our lives. And often we ought to remember that. Remember the zeal, the excitement that you had as a new believer, and return to that. I think also he wants us to remember what he's done in our life since then. Think about who you are. I sure hope you're not the same as you were before you accepted Jesus. I hope if you looked at your life, you'd say, I am a completely different person. I think different, I act different, I respond different. God has been transforming me. As well as the things he's done. He's answered prayer. He's given blessings. Look at my life. It is amazing. And God, you have done all this. God says, I want you to remember that. Just like the people in our country have put monuments up in Washington, D.C. to help us remember the great men that have gone on before us, that have had an impact in setting up our country, our founding fathers, to remember what Jesus has done, what God has done in our lives. We should be drawn back to that. And God says to us, just like he said to the Israelites, he says, don't forget this day. Don't forget that day. Don't forget this season of life. Don't forget that answered prayer. Because why? He wants you to remember his love. Because what is it? What is it? What did he show Israel that day as they were saved after the other side they got on the other side of the Red Sea? He showed them, I love you and you are mine. That's what he told them. Now you think about that. That's what God said to you. I love you and you are mine. That's pretty awesome. Hey, care about you guys. Pray a blessing over you today, that you might just know that you are loved by God and you are his. Thanks. Look forward to seeing you in the fall time. God bless. Bye-bye.